Marcus sat in the third row of his classroom, his pencil moving slowly across the page. He was 12 years old and lived in a small apartment on the edge of town. His notebook was old, with torn edges and pages that had been used many times before. He always erased carefully so he could write on the same page again. Mrs. Henderson stood at the front of the class. She was tall and always wore expensive clothes. Her shoes clicked loudly on the floor as she walked. Today she had a big smile on her face as she wrote something on the whiteboard. "Class, I have exciting news," she said. "It's time for our annual Innovation Fair project." The room immediately filled with noise. Students turned to each other, talking and laughing. Marcus heard the word robot from the desk behind him. Someone else shouted about drones. A girl near the window was already talking on her phone to her mother about buying special equipment. "This project is worth 30% of your grade," Mrs. Henderson continued. "You will create something innovative, something new, something that shows creativity and science working together." Marcus listened carefully. He loved science, even though he didn't have the fancy calculator that other kids had. He still used his fingers sometimes to count, and he wasn't ashamed. His mother always told him that a smart mind was better than expensive tools. "You have 6 weeks," Mrs. Henderson said. "I expect amazing things from all of you. Remember, your parents can help you get materials. This is a chance to really show what you can do." After school, Marcus walked home alone. He didn't take the bus because his mother needed to save money. The walk was long, almost an hour, but Marcus didn't mind. He liked to look at things as he walked. Today he noticed things he had never really thought about before. At the corner of Maple Street, old Mrs. Chen was trying to get her mail. She had a walker, the kind with wheels and a small seat, but the mailbox was too far from the curb. Marcus watched as she struggled, reaching and reaching, almost falling. A young man ran over to help her. Mrs. Chen thanked him with a tired smile. Marcus kept walking. 2 blocks later, he saw Mr. Patel opening his small grocery store. Mr. Patel's hands shook all the time. Marcus's mother said it was a sickness, something that made his body move even when he didn't want it to. Today, Mr. Patel dropped his keys 3 times before he could unlock the door. His face looked frustrated and sad. Near his apartment building, Marcus stopped at the crosswalk. The crossing guard was Mrs. Rivera. She wore an orange vest, but it was old and faded. The colors weren't bright anymore. In the early morning darkness, it was hard to see her. Cars came close, too close, before they noticed her. Marcus saw her step back quickly as a truck rushed by. She put her hand on her chest, breathing hard. These images stayed in Marcus's mind as he climbed the stairs to his apartment. They lived on the 4th floor. The elevator had been broken for 2 years. His mother said the landlord would never fix it. Inside the apartment, Marcus found his mother in the kitchen. She was soaking her feet in a bucket of warm water. She worked as a cleaner at the hospital and she had to stand all day. Her feet always hurt when she came home. "Hi, baby," she said with a warm smile. "How was school?" "Good, Mama," Marcus said. He put his backpack on the small table. "We got a new project today. A big one." His mother looked interested. "Tell me about it." Marcus explained the innovation fair. He told her about the robots and drones the other kids were planning. He saw his mother's smile become a little sad around the edges. She knew what he wasn't saying. They didn't have money for expensive materials. "What are you thinking of making?" she asked gently. Marcus sat down next to her. "I don't know yet. But Mama, I saw something today." He told her about Mrs. Chen in the mailbox, about Mr. Patel's shaking hands, about Mrs. Rivera's faded vest that didn't keep her safe. His mother listened carefully. When he finished, she took his hand in hers. Her hands were rough from work, but they were warm and strong. "You know what I think?" she said. "I think you just found your project." "But I need to make something innovative," Marcus said. "Something special? And you will," his mother said. "Marcus, those expensive robots are nice, but do they help people? Real people who are struggling every day?" Marcus thought about this. He had seen the robotics club at school. They made robots that could pick up balls and move blocks. It was impressive, but it didn't help anyone who really needed help. "I could make something for people like Mrs. Chen," Marcus said slowly. "Or Mrs. Rivera." "Yes," his mother said. "You could make something that helps real people with real problems." That's what innovation really means. It's not about having the most expensive parts. It's about solving problems that matter. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. His mind was full of ideas. He thought about lights and bright colors. He thought about things that were easy to use, even for people with shaking hands. He thought about his neighborhood and all the people in it who could use some help. The next morning, Marcus woke up early. He found a notebook that still had empty pages in the back. He started drawing. His first drawings weren't good, but he kept trying. He drew vests with lights. He drew devices that could be attached to walkers. He drew simple designs that wouldn't cost much money. At breakfast, his mother looked at his drawings. She had to leave for work soon, but she took time to look at each page. "These are wonderful," she said. "Marcus, I'm so proud of you." "But Mama," Marcus said quietly, "the other kids will have better projects." Expensive projects. His mother knelt down so she could look directly into his eyes. "Listen to me," she said firmly. "Money can buy materials, but it can't buy a caring heart. You're thinking about other people. You're trying to make life easier for people who are struggling. That's worth more than any expensive robot." Marcus wanted to believe her, but he was scared. He knew how kids at school looked at him sometimes. His clothes were from donation centers. His shoes had holes that he covered with tape. What would they say about a project made from cheap materials? "Just promise me one thing," his mother said. "Promise me you'll try. Give it your best effort. That's all I ask." "I promise, Mama," Marcus said. After his mother left for work, Marcus went outside. He walked through the neighborhood again, this time with his notebook. He drew the crosswalk where Mrs. Rivera worked. He measured distances with his feet because he didn't have a measuring tape. He wrote down what time the sun came up and when it got too dark to see clearly. He stopped at Mr. Patel's store. The old man was arranging vegetables in boxes outside. "Good morning, Mr. Patel," Marcus said. "Good morning, young man," Mr. Patel replied. His voice was kind even though his hands were shaking. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said. "What's the hardest part of your day?" Mr. Patel thought for a moment. "Small things," he said. "Keys, buttons, anything that needs steady hands." He held up his trembling fingers. "These don't cooperate anymore." Marcus wrote this down. He thanked Mr. Patel and continued walking. He talked to Mrs. Rivera at the crosswalk. He asked Mrs. Chen about her walker. He was gathering information, just like a real scientist would do. By the time he went home that evening, Marcus's notebook was full of notes and drawings. He had a clearer idea now. He would make something to help people be more visible and safe. Something simple that anyone could use. Something that didn't cost much money so that poor people could afford it too. He didn't know yet that this simple idea would change his life. He didn't know that his project, made from recycled materials and held together with hope, would eventually travel across the ocean. He only knew that he wanted to help people in his neighborhood, people who struggled every day just like his mother did. That was enough to start with. That was everything, really. The next 3 weeks were busy for Marcus. Every day after school he went searching for materials. He didn't have money to buy new things, so he had to be creative. His mother called it treasure hunting, and that made it sound more fun than sad. On Monday, Marcus went to the junkyard at the edge of town. The man who worked there, Mr. Jackson, knew Marcus's mother from the hospital. When Marcus explained his project, Mr. Jackson let him look around for free. Marcus found old bicycle reflectors, the kind that shine bright when light hits them. Some were cracked, but many were still good. He found pieces of wire and some metal clips. He put everything carefully in his backpack, making sure nothing would break on the walk home. On Wednesday, he went to the donation center. They had a big bin of broken electronics that nobody wanted. Marcus asked the lady at the desk if he could look through it. "What are you looking for, sweetie?" she asked. "Parts for a school project," Marcus said. "I need lights that still work." The lady smiled and let him search. Marcus found LED strips from old Christmas decorations. Some still worked when he tested them with a small battery he had. He also found parts from old phones and some wire that wasn't too damaged. Every evening, Marcus worked at the kitchen table. His mother would come home tired from work, but she always sat with him for a while. She helped him figure out how to connect the wires. She showed him how to sew, using an old needle and thread she had saved. "My grandmother taught me to sew," she told Marcus. "She said every stitch you make with care will hold strong." Marcus learned to make small, careful stitches. His fingers got sore and he poked himself with the needle many times. But he kept going. He was making a vest, a safety vest that would light up and shine bright in the dark. The vest started with an old jacket Marcus found in the donation bin. It was too big for him, but that was okay. He cut it and reshaped it. He attached the reflectors all around it. He connected the LED strips inside, running wires carefully so they wouldn't show too much. He even found a small solar panel in the electronics repair shop's garbage. The shop owner saw him looking and gave it to him. "I'm throwing it out anyway," the man said. "It's cracked, but it might still charge a little." Marcus tested the solar panel. It was slow, but it worked. He attached it to the shoulder of the vest. During the day, it would charge a small battery. At night, the battery would power the LED lights. The best part was that Marcus kept track of every cost. Each reflector, each wire, each piece. He wrote it all down. The total cost was less than $10. His mother gave him the money from her tip jar, coins that people sometimes left for the cleaning staff. "This is amazing," his mother said, when Marcus showed her the nearly finished vest. "You made this from trash and it works better than the expensive vest Mrs. Rivera wears." Marcus also created a folder with all his research. He took photos of Mrs. Rivera at the crosswalk, of Mrs. Chen with her walker, of the dark streets in the early morning. He printed statistics from the library computer about accidents involving elderly people and crossing guards. He made a simple instruction manual showing how anyone could make the vest with cheap materials. He was proud of his work. But he was also nervous. The day came when students had to bring their project drafts to class. Marcus woke up early that morning. His stomach felt strange, like butterflies were flying inside. He carefully packed his vest in a cardboard box that once held his mother's work shoes. On the bus to school, Marcus held the box on his lap. He had to take the bus today because the vest was too delicate to carry on his long walk. His mother had given him bus money from her emergency fund. In the classroom, Marcus looked around at what other students had brought. His heart sank. Jessica had a huge display board with photos printed on glossy paper. Her project was a robot arm controlled by a computer. The robot was shiny and professional looking. Her father owned a tech company and had clearly helped her build it. David had brought a drone that could carry small packages. It was expensive and came in a professional carrying case. His presentation was on a tablet, with videos and animations. Sarah had a 3D model of a water filtration system, all printed in perfect plastic parts that fit together like a puzzle. Her mother was an engineer and had used her company's 3D printer. Other students had similar projects. Expensive materials, professional presentations, parent help that showed in every detail. Marcus's hands shook a little as he took his vest out of the cardboard box. The LED strips were held on with electrical tape in some places. The stitching was uneven because he was still learning. The solar panel had a crack across it. Next to the other projects, it looked exactly like what it was. Something made from garbage by a poor kid who couldn't afford better. Mrs. Henderson walked around the room, looking at each project. She smiled big smiles at the expensive ones. She touched Jessica's robot arm and said "wonderful" 3 times. She asked David questions about his drone's battery life and flying range. Then she came to Marcus's desk. Marcus stood up straight. He had prepared what he wanted to say. He opened his mouth to explain about the solar panel and the reflectors and how it could help people for less than $10. But before he could speak, Mrs. Henderson laughed. It wasn't a kind laugh. It was sharp and mean like a knife. She picked up the vest with 2 fingers, holding it away from her body like it was dirty. "Oh, Marcus," she said loudly. Everyone could hear. "This is adorable." The way she said adorable made it sound like an insult. Other students turned to look. Some started to giggle. "Did you understand the assignment?" Mrs. Henderson asked. She was still holding the vest with 2 fingers. "This is supposed to be innovative, new, advanced." "It is innovative," Marcus said quietly. His face felt hot. "It uses solar power and LED lights, and it only costs—" "It looks like you pulled it out of a trash can," Mrs. Henderson interrupted. She dropped the vest back on his desk. "Where did you get these materials? A junkyard?" Marcus nodded. He couldn't speak. His throat felt tight. "Class," Mrs. Henderson said, raising her voice. "This is what happens when you don't take an assignment seriously. This is what happens when you don't put in effort." "I did put in effort," Marcus said. His voice came out small and weak. "I worked every day for 3 weeks. I researched and tested and—" "With trash," a boy named Brandon said from the back row. "He made it with literal garbage." The classroom filled with laughter. Not everyone laughed. Some students looked uncomfortable, but enough laughed that the sound filled Marcus's ears and made his eyes sting. Mrs. Henderson didn't tell them to stop. She just shook her head at Marcus like he was a disappointment. "I think you should reconsider your submission," she said. "You're embarrassing yourself, Marcus. Maybe you could do a simple poster project instead. Something more appropriate for your situation." She turned away and walked to Jessica's desk. For the next 20 minutes, she talked about how amazing Jessica's robot arm was, how professional it looked, how clear it was that real effort had gone into it. Marcus sat down at his desk. He carefully put the vest back in the cardboard box. His hands were shaking. He could feel tears starting, but he refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of everyone. A girl named Emma, who sat next to him, leaned over and whispered, "I think your vest is cool. It actually helps people." But her kind words couldn't fix the hurt. Marcus kept his eyes down for the rest of the class. When the bell rang, he grabbed his box and rushed out. In the hallway, he heard Brandon and his friends laughing again. "Did you see his project?" Brandon said. "My dad spends more on coffee than that thing cost." Mrs. Henderson was trying so hard not to laugh more, another boy said. "Did you see her face?" Marcus walked faster. He went to the bathroom and locked himself in a stall. Only then did he let the tears come. He cried quietly, holding the cardboard box on his lap. All his work, all his effort. 3 weeks of walking around the neighborhood, of sewing until his fingers hurt, of carefully connecting wires and testing lights. 3 weeks of hoping he could make something that mattered, and Mrs. Henderson had laughed at it. Called it trash, told him he was embarrassing himself. Maybe she was right. Maybe he had been stupid to think he could compete with kids who had money and parents with advanced degrees. Maybe he should have just done a simple poster, something that wouldn't make people laugh. Marcus stayed in the bathroom until the hallway was quiet. Then he walked out carrying his box, keeping his head down so nobody would see his red eyes. He didn't take the bus home. He couldn't sit there with other students who might have heard about his project. Instead, he walked the long way home, the cardboard box getting heavier with each step. When he finally reached his apartment building, he climbed the 4 flights of stairs slowly. His mother wouldn't be home for hours. She had a double shift today. Marcus put the box on the kitchen table. He sat down and stared at it. Inside was his vest, his research folder, his instruction manual. Everything he had worked so hard to create. Everything that Mrs. Henderson thought was garbage. Marcus put his head down on the table and cried again. This time there was nobody to see, nobody to hear, so he cried hard and long. He cried for all the effort that hadn't mattered. He cried because being poor meant people didn't take you seriously. Marcus must have fallen asleep at the kitchen table because the next thing he knew, his mother was gently shaking his shoulder. The apartment was dark except for the small lamp in the living room. He could see her tired face looking down at him with concern. "Baby, what's wrong?" she asked. "Why are you sleeping at the table?" Marcus sat up. His neck hurt from sleeping in a bad position. His eyes felt swollen and sore from crying. The cardboard box was still in front of him, and seeing it made everything come rushing back. The laughter, Mrs. Henderson's sharp voice, the word garbage. "I don't want to do the project anymore," Marcus said. His voice sounded flat and empty. His mother pulled out a chair and sat down next to him. She was still wearing her hospital cleaning uniform. Her name tag said Rosa Martinez and had a small photo of her smiling. She looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from standing and scrubbing and lifting for 10 hours straight. "Tell me what happened," she said gently. At first, Marcus didn't want to talk about it. The memory was too fresh, too painful. But his mother waited patiently, her hand resting on his arm, and finally the words started coming out. He told her everything, how the other kids had expensive projects with perfect presentations, how Mrs. Henderson had picked up his vest with 2 fingers like it was dirty, how she had laughed that sharp, mean laugh, how she had told him he was embarrassing himself, how the other students had called his project literal garbage. As Marcus talked, he started crying again. He felt ashamed of crying in front of his mother. He was 12 years old, almost a teenager. But he couldn't stop the tears. His mother listened to every word. When he finished, he saw that her eyes were wet too. She pulled him close and hugged him tight. "I'm sorry," Marcus said into her shoulder. "I wasted your money. The bus fare, the $10 for materials. I wasted it all on something everyone laughed at. His mother pulled back and held his face in her hands. Her hands were rough and dry from all the cleaning chemicals she used at work. But they were warm and gentle on his cheeks. "Marcus," she said firmly, "look at me." He looked into her eyes. They were dark brown like his, and right now they were full of emotion. "You did not waste anything," she said. "Do you understand me? You did not waste one single penny." "But Mrs. Henderson said—" "I don't care what Mrs. Henderson said," his mother interrupted. Her voice was stronger now, almost fierce. "That woman laughed at your project because she doesn't understand what real innovation is. She thinks innovation means expensive materials and fancy presentations, but she's wrong." Marcus wanted to believe her, but it was hard. Everyone else's projects were so much better, Mama. They had robots and drones and 3D printed things. Mine was just made from trash. His mother stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the dark street below. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, sadder. "Marcus, do you know why I clean hospitals instead of working as a nurse?" she asked. Marcus shook his head. His mother had never really talked about this before. "When I was young, younger than you are now, I wanted to be a nurse," she said. "I loved taking care of people. I was good at it. My teachers said I had a gift for healing." She turned back to face him. "But my family was poor, very poor. We didn't have money for nursing school. I had to start working when I was 16 to help my parents. I got a job cleaning, and I've been cleaning ever since." Marcus felt his chest tighten. He had never thought about his mother's dreams before. He had only known her as a hospital cleaner. "Does that make me less important than a nurse?" his mother asked. "Does that make my work worthless?" "No," Marcus said immediately. "You work so hard, Mama. You help people. You keep the hospital clean and safe." "Exactly," his mother said. She came back to the table and sat down. "I do help people. Maybe I don't have a fancy degree or wear a nice uniform like the nurses do, but my work matters. Every room I clean might save someone from getting an infection. Every floor I mop might prevent someone from falling. My work is real and important, even if some people look down on me for it." She pulled the cardboard box closer and opened it. She took out the vest carefully, spreading it on the table. In the dim light from the living room, the reflectors caught the glow and shimmered. "This," she said, touching the vest gently, "is real innovation. Do you know why?" Marcus shook his head. "Because you made something that actually helps people," his mother said. "You didn't make it to impress anyone. You made it because you saw Mrs. Chen struggling with her mailbox. You saw Mr. Patel shaking hands. You saw Mrs. Rivera almost getting hit by that truck." She picked up his research folder and opened it. She looked through the photos, the statistics, the instruction manual. "You documented everything," she said. "You thought about cost because you know that poor people need help too. You made something that anyone could make, not just rich people with money to buy expensive parts." She closed the folder and looked directly at Marcus. "That robot arm that Jessica made? What does it do?" Marcus thought about it. "It can pick things up and move them. I think it plays tic-tac-toe." "And does anyone need a robot to play tic-tac-toe?" his mother asked. "No," Marcus admitted. "But people do need to be safe when they cross the street," his mother said. "People do need lights that work when they're walking in the dark. Elderly people do need help being visible so cars don't hit them." She stood up again and walked to a small shelf by the refrigerator. She took down a glass jar. Inside were coins and a few dollar bills. It was her tip jar, the money people sometimes left for the cleaning staff at the hospital. "Do you know what this money represents?" she asked. "Tips," Marcus said. "It represents people seeing me," his mother said. "Most people don't notice cleaners. We're invisible. We come in early or stay late, and we do our work while everyone else is busy with important things. But sometimes someone notices. Someone sees the extra care I take. Someone appreciates that I make sure everything is perfect, and they leave a tip." She brought the jar to the table. "Being seen matters, Marcus. Being visible matters. Your project helps people be seen and safe. That's not garbage." "That's beautiful." Marcus looked at the vest again. In his mother's hands, it didn't look like trash anymore. He could see the careful stitching, the way the reflectors were placed in a pattern for maximum visibility, the clever way the solar panel was positioned to catch the most light. "Mrs. Henderson doesn't understand what it's like to struggle," his mother continued. "She doesn't know what it's like to worry about money for bus fare or to make meals from whatever is on sale. She doesn't know what it's like to be invisible. She sat down again and took both of Marcus's hands in hers. But you do know. And that's your superpower. You see people that others don't see. You care about problems that others don't care about. That makes you special, Marcus. That makes you a real innovator. But I'm going to fail the project, Marcus said. Mrs. Henderson said I should do a poster instead. Are you going to listen to her? His mother asked. Are you going to give up on something you worked so hard for? Something that actually matters? Marcus thought about this. He thought about the 3 weeks of treasure hunting, of learning to sew, of testing and connecting and adjusting. He thought about Mrs. Rivera's face when that truck came too close. He thought about Mrs. Chen's struggle to reach her mailbox. I don't want to give up, he said slowly, but I'm scared everyone will laugh at me again. They might, his mother said honestly. Some people will always laugh at things they don't understand. Some people will always value price over purpose. But Marcus, you can't let their laughter stop you from doing good work. She squeezed his hands. I'm going to tell you something my grandmother told me. She was a seamstress in Mexico and she made beautiful clothes for rich women. But the rich women never knew her name. They never thanked her. They just took the clothes and wore them to fancy parties. His mother smiled sadly. One day my grandmother got tired of being invisible. She started making clothes for poor women in our village. Simple clothes but made with love and care. She charged very little, just enough to buy more fabric. And you know what happened? What? Marcus asked. Those women remembered her name, his mother said. They hugged her. They cried with gratitude. They told everyone about the seamstress who saw them and cared about them. My grandmother said those were the happiest years of her life, even though she made less money. She looked at the vest on the table. That's what your project is, Marcus. It's you seeing people who are often invisible. It's you caring about them. Mrs. Henderson might never understand that, but the people you're trying to help, they will understand. They will be grateful. Marcus felt something shifting inside him. The hurt was still there, but it felt smaller now. His mother's words were like a light in a dark room, showing him things he couldn't see before. What should I do? He asked. You should finish your project, his mother said. Make it as good as you can. Test it, improve it, document everything, and then you present it with pride. Even if people laugh? Even if people laugh, she said firmly. Because you'll know the truth. You'll know that you made something real and important. You'll know that you're not just playing with expensive toys. You're solving actual problems for actual people. She stood up and pulled Marcus to his feet. Now let's look at this vest together. What can we improve? What can we make better? They spent the next 2 hours at the kitchen table. His mother helped him reinforce the stitching on the LED strips. They adjusted the position of the solar panel for better sun exposure. They tested the lights over and over, making sure they were bright enough. His mother also helped him improve his presentation folder. She had learned English as a second language, but her writing was clear and careful. Together, they rewrote his explanations to be more clear. They organized his photos better. They made his instruction manual easier to follow. Someone should be able to pick this up and make their own vest, his mother said. That's important. This isn't just about you making one vest. It's about sharing an idea that others can use. By the time they finished, it was very late. His mother had to be up in just 5 hours for another shift. But she didn't complain. She just hugged Marcus tight and told him she was proud of him. No matter what happens at school, she said, you did something brave. You tried to help people. That's what matters. Marcus went to bed that night with his mind full of thoughts. He was still scared of presenting his project. He still worried about people laughing. But he also felt something new, determination. His mother was right. He hadn't made his project to impress Mrs. Henderson or to win a competition. He had made it to help people like Mrs. Rivera and Mrs. Chen and Mr. Patel, people who struggled, people who were often invisible. If his project could help even one person, then it was worth it. Even if everyone laughed, even if he failed the class. It was worth it because it was real and true and made with care. The next 3 weeks passed quickly. Marcus worked on his project every evening after school. He tested the vest in different lighting conditions, walking around his neighborhood at dawn and dusk to see how visible the reflectors were. He asked Mrs. Rivera if she would try wearing it one morning, and she agreed. This is wonderful, Mrs. Rivera said, her face lighting up with genuine pleasure. It's so much brighter than my old vest. And you made this yourself? Yes, ma'am, Marcus said proudly. And it only costs about $10 to make. Mrs. Rivera's eyes widened. $10? My vest from the school district cost $40 and it's not nearly as good as this. Marcus took photos of Mrs. Rivera wearing the vest as the morning sun came up. Cars could see her from much farther away now. Drivers slowed down sooner. She looked safer, and she felt safer too. Can I tell my daughter about this? Mrs. Rivera asked. She works as a home health aide and she visits elderly people in the early morning. She could really use something like this. Of course, Marcus said. I made an instruction manual. Anyone can make one. He also tested the vest with Mrs. Chen. She was nervous at first, but when Marcus explained that it would help drivers see her better when she went to the mailbox in the evening, she agreed to try it. The lights are so bright, Mrs. Chen said, adjusting the vest over her sweater. And it's not heavy at all. You're a smart boy, Marcus. Marcus added all these photos and testimonials to his presentation folder. He included quotes from Mrs. Rivera and Mrs. Chen. He documented how many days the solar panel could keep the battery charged. He even created a cost comparison chart showing how his vest was cheaper and more effective than commercial safety vests. By the time the innovation fair arrived, Marcus had a complete project. His vest worked perfectly. His documentation was thorough and professional. His instruction manual was clear and detailed. He had real evidence that his project helped real people. The morning of the fair, Marcus's mother took the morning off from work. She had to use her sick day, which meant she wouldn't get paid, but she wanted to be there for Marcus. She helped him carry everything to school in 2 cardboard boxes. Are you nervous? She asked as they walked. Yes, Marcus admitted. But I'm also proud. I know my project is good, Mama, even if Mrs. Henderson doesn't think so. His mother smiled and kissed his forehead. That's my boy. The innovation fair was held in the school gymnasium. Long tables were set up around the room, each one for a different student's project. Parents and family members filled the bleachers. The school principal was there, along with several teachers and members of the PTA. Marcus set up his display at table number 17. He arranged his vest on a stand he had made from wire hangers. He placed his folder open to show his research and photos. He put his instruction manual in a plastic sleeve so people could read it without damaging it. He even brought a small poster board where he had written the key points of his project in neat letters. Around him, other students were setting up much fancier displays. Jessica's robot arm had a professional banner printed on vinyl. David's drone sat on a custom display case with LED lights underneath. Sarah's water filtration system had a video playing on a tablet, showing how it worked. Marcus tried not to compare. His mother stood beside him, her hand on his shoulder. It looks perfect, she said. I'm so proud of you. Mrs. Henderson arrived with the judging panel. There were 5 judges, the school principal, 2 local business owners, a retired teacher, and a woman Marcus didn't recognize. They wore name tags and carried clipboards. The judges went from table to table, spending about 5 minutes at each one. Marcus watched as they smiled and nodded at the expensive projects. They asked questions and wrote notes on their clipboards. Jessica's father stood beside her display, explaining technical details. David's mother helped him demonstrate the drone's features. When the judges reached Marcus's table, Mrs. Henderson was leading the group. She barely glanced at his display. This is Marcus Martinez's project, she said quickly. A safety vest made from recycled materials. The principal, Mr. Wilson, looked interested. He stepped closer to examine the vest. Tell me about this, Marcus, he said kindly. Marcus took a deep breath. He had practiced his presentation many times. This is a solar-powered safety vest designed for crossing guards, elderly people, and anyone who needs visibility in low-light conditions, he began. It uses LED lights and reflective materials to make the wearer visible from over 200 feet away. He showed them his cost breakdown. The total cost is less than $10, and it can be made entirely from recycled or donated materials. This makes it accessible for people in communities with limited budgets. One of the business owners, a man named Mr. Chen, picked up the instruction manual. You created instructions so others can make this? He asked. Yes, sir, Marcus said. I wanted to make sure anyone could replicate the design. I tested it with real crossing guards and elderly people in my neighborhood. He showed them the photos of Mrs. Rivera and Mrs. Chen. He explained how the solar panel worked, how long the battery lasted, and how the design could be adjusted for different body sizes and needs. The woman judge, whose name tag said Dr. Okonkwo, listened carefully to everything Marcus said. She asked several questions about his testing process and his research on pedestrian safety. She seemed genuinely interested, but Mrs. Henderson kept looking at her watch. After 3 minutes, she said, "We should move on. There are many other projects to see." The judges thanked Marcus and moved to the next table. His mother squeezed his shoulder. "You did wonderfully," she whispered. For the next hour, Marcus stood by his display. Some parents and students stopped to look, but not many. Most people crowded around the expensive, flashy projects. Marcus heard people exclaiming over Jessica's robot arm and David's drone. A few people did stop at his table. An elderly man with a cane examined the vest carefully. "This is smart," he said. "I could use something like this for my morning walks. Where can I buy one?" "You can't buy it," Marcus said. "But I made an instruction manual. You can make your own for about $10. The man took a photo of the instruction manual with his phone. "My grandson can help me make this." "Thank you, young man." A woman who worked at the school as a janitor also stopped. Marcus recognized her from the hallways. "Did you really make this from trash?" she asked. "From recycled materials," Marcus corrected gently. "Things that other people didn't want anymore." The woman smiled. "I think that's beautiful." Making something useful from what others throw away. That's real intelligence. Her words made Marcus feel warm inside, but he couldn't help noticing that none of the judges came back to ask more questions. They spent long periods at other tables, especially Jessica's and David's, but they seemed to have forgotten about Marcus. Finally, the principal called for everyone's attention. It was time to announce the winners. The gymnasium got quiet as Mr. Wilson walked to the center of the room with a microphone. "We have seen many impressive projects today," he said. "Our young innovators have worked hard and we're proud of all of them." Marcus felt his heart beating fast. His mother stood beside him, her hand gripping his. "Third place goes to Sarah Chen for her water filtration system," Mr. Wilson announced. Sarah walked to the center to receive her trophy and certificate. Everyone clapped. "Second place goes to David Park for his package delivery drone." More applause as David received his award, grinning widely. Marcus held his breath. Could he possibly have won first place? "And first place," Mr. Wilson said, "goes to Jessica Reynolds for her computer-controlled robotic arm." The gymnasium erupted in applause. Jessica's parents stood up, cheering loudly. Mrs. Henderson was clapping too, a big smile on her face. Jessica walked to the center and Marcus could see tears of joy in her eyes. Marcus felt something heavy settle in his chest. He hadn't won. He hadn't even placed in the top 3. But Mr. Wilson was still talking. "We also have several honorable mentions for outstanding projects." He read 5 names. Marcus's name was one of them. "Marcus Martinez for his solar-powered safety vest," Mr. Wilson said. "Please come forward." Marcus walked to the center on shaky legs. Mr. Wilson handed him a certificate. It was printed on regular paper, not fancy cardstock like the trophies. It said honorable mention in small letters. "Good job, son," Mr. Wilson said, shaking his hand. But Marcus could tell it was just something he said to everyone. The principal had already moved on, calling the next name. Marcus walked back to his table. His mother hugged him tight. "I'm proud of you," she said. But Marcus could see the disappointment in her eyes too. She had taken a sick day from work, losing money they needed to watch him receive a participation certificate. Mrs. Henderson walked over to their table. She had a small smile on her face, the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Well, Marcus," she said, "you should be proud. You participated. That's what counts, right? Not everyone can win." She patted his shoulder in a way that felt condescending. "Maybe next year you can try something a little more ambitious." Then she walked away to congratulate Jessica and her parents. Marcus watched as she laughed with them, admiring the golden trophy Jessica held. As people started packing up their projects, Brandon walked past Marcus's table with his friends. He had won an honorable mention too for a project about growing plants with different types of music. "At least my project didn't look like garbage," Brandon said. Loud enough for Marcus to hear. One of his friends laughed. "Did you see his face when they announced first place? He actually thought he might win." Marcus kept his head down, carefully packing his vest back into the cardboard box. His eyes were burning, but he refused to cry. "Not here. Not again. As he was packing, something happened. A boy from another table knocked over a display while reaching for something. The display was balanced poorly and it fell, hitting Marcus's table. The impact knocked Marcus's vest off its stand. The vest fell to the floor and the boy accidentally stepped on it as he tried to catch his own project. "Sorry," the boy said, but he didn't stop. He grabbed his project and rushed away. Marcus picked up his vest. One of the LED strips was broken, hanging loose. The solar panel had a new crack across it. Some of the reflectors had been torn off. It was the final insult. 3 weeks of work damaged in seconds. "It's okay," his mother said quickly. "We can fix it. We can repair it at home." But Marcus shook his head. What was the point? Nobody cared about his project. The judges had barely looked at it. Mrs. Henderson thought it was trash. Other students laughed at it. And now it was broken. They packed everything quietly and left the gymnasium. Outside, the spring day was beautiful and sunny, but Marcus barely noticed. He walked beside his mother, carrying his boxes of failure. "You know what?" his mother said as they walked. "Those judges were wrong. Mr. Wilson was wrong. Mrs. Henderson was definitely wrong." "Mama, please," Marcus said quietly. "I just want to go home." His mother stopped walking. She put down the box she was carrying and turned Marcus to face her. Right there on the sidewalk in front of the school, she held his face in her hands. "Listen to me," she said fiercely. "Your project was the best one there. Not the most expensive, not the flashiest, but the best, the most useful, the most thoughtful, the most important." "Then why didn't I win?" Marcus asked. His voice cracked. "Because sometimes people can't see value," his mother said. "Sometimes people are so blinded by shiny things that they miss what's real and true." A tear rolled down Marcus's cheek. Then another. His mother pulled him close, right there on the sidewalk, and let him cry into her shoulder. "I'm so tired, Mama," he whispered. "I'm tired of being poor. I'm tired of having less than everyone else. I'm tired of trying so hard and having it not matter." "I know, baby," she said, her own voice thick with emotion. "I know." They stood there for a long moment, holding each other, both of them crying quietly. Around them, other families were leaving the school, carrying their projects and their trophies, talking and laughing. Nobody stopped to ask if they were okay. Nobody noticed them at all. Just like always, they were invisible. Marcus didn't go to school the next day. He told his mother his stomach hurt, which wasn't completely a lie. His stomach did hurt, tight and heavy with disappointment. His mother let him stay home even though she had to go to work. She left him soup in the refrigerator and called twice during her shift to check on him. Marcus spent the day in his room, lying on his bed, staring at the ceiling. The broken vest sat on his desk in its cardboard box. He couldn't bring himself to look at it. Every time he did, he remembered Mrs. Henderson's laugh and Brandon's mocking voice and the sound of applause when Jessica won first place. He thought about throwing the whole project away. What was the point of keeping it? It had failed.
He had failed.
Maybe he should just accept that some things weren't meant for people like him. But he couldn't quite bring himself to do it. Some small part of him, the part that sounded like his mother's voice, whispered that the vest still mattered, that Mrs. Rivera and Mrs. Chen had found it useful, that the elderly man at the fair had taken a photo of the instructions. On the third day, Marcus went back to school. He kept his head down in the hallways. In Mrs. Henderson's class, she handed back graded project reports. Marcus got a C+. Jessica got an A+. Mrs. Henderson had written on Marcus's paper, "Creative use of limited resources, but lacks technical sophistication." Marcus folded the paper and put it in his backpack. He didn't show it to his mother. A week passed. Then another. Marcus tried to forget about the innovation fair. He focused on his regular schoolwork and helped his mother around the apartment. The vest stayed in its box on his desk, gathering dust. Then one Thursday afternoon, something unexpected happened. Marcus came home from school and found his mother sitting at the kitchen table with a stranger. The woman was elderly, with dark skin and gray hair pulled back in a neat bun. She wore a colorful dress and had kind eyes behind her glasses. On the table in front of her was a folder with papers. "Marcus," his mother said, standing up quickly. Her face looked excited and nervous at the same time. "This is Dr. Sarah Okonkwo. She was one of the judges at your innovation fair." Marcus remembered her. She was the woman who had asked detailed questions about his testing process. but he didn't understand why she was here in his apartment. "Hello, Marcus," Dr. Okonkwo said. She had an accent that Marcus couldn't place. Her voice was warm and gentle. "I hope you don't mind me visiting. I got your address from the school." "It's okay," Marcus said slowly. He put his backpack down and sat at the table. Dr. Okonkwo smiled at him. "I wanted to talk to you about your project." The safety vest. Marcus felt his face get hot. Was she here to tell him how bad it was? To explain why he didn't win? "I know you didn't place in the top 3, Dr. Okonkwo continued. "And I want you to know that I disagreed with that decision. I thought your project was outstanding." Marcus looked up in surprise. "You did?" "Yes," Dr. Okonkwo said firmly. "In fact, I thought it was the best project at the fair. Not the most expensive or the most technically complex, but the most innovative in the truest sense of the word." She opened her folder and took out some papers. "Do you know what innovation really means, Marcus?" "Making something new?" Marcus said uncertainly. "Yes, but more than that," Dr. Okonkwo said. "True innovation solves real problems in creative ways. It makes life better for people who need help. It takes limited resources and uses them wisely." She spread the papers on the table. Marcus saw they were information about something called the Global Youth Innovation Challenge. "I'm a retired mechanical engineer," Dr. Okonkwo explained. "I worked for 40 years designing medical devices and safety equipment. After I retired, I started volunteering with organizations that promote youth innovation, especially in underserved communities." She pointed to the papers. "Every year, there's an international competition called the Global Youth Innovation Challenge. It's for young people aged 12 to 18 from all over the world. The competition looks for practical solutions to real-world problems." Marcus's mother leaned forward, her eyes bright with interest. "Tell him about the categories," she said. "There are several categories," Dr. Okonkwo said. "Medical innovation, environmental sustainability, educational technology, and social impact. Your project, Marcus, would fit perfectly in the social impact category." "My project?" Marcus said. "But it's broken, and it's not good enough. The judges at school were looking for flash and expense," Dr. Okonkwo interrupted gently. "They were impressed by robots and drones because those things look advanced. But they missed something important. They missed heart." She picked up one of the papers and showed it to Marcus. It had photos of past winners. Marcus saw young people from different countries holding trophies and certificates. Last year's social impact winner was a girl from Kenya who designed a low-cost water purification tablet, Dr. Okonkwo said. The year before, a boy from India won for creating an affordable hearing aid using recycled phone speakers. "Do you see the pattern?" Marcus looked at the photos more carefully. None of the winning projects looked fancy or expensive. They all looked practical and simple, but clever. "These are solutions created by young people who understand real problems," Dr. Okonkwo said. "They're not playing with expensive toys. They're addressing genuine needs in their communities." She looked directly at Marcus. "Your safety vest is exactly the kind of project that does well in this competition. It's practical. It's affordable. It's replicable. It addresses a real safety issue. And most importantly, it shows empathy and social awareness." Marcus felt something stirring in his chest. Hope, maybe, but also fear. "I don't know," he said quietly. "What if I fail again?" His mother reached over and took his hand. "What if you don't?" she said softly. Dr. Okonkwo smiled. "I'm not here to push you into anything, Marcus, but I am here to offer help if you want it. The competition deadline is in 5 weeks. If you're interested, I'd like to mentor you, help you prepare a proper submission." "Why?" Marcus asked. "Why would you help me?" Dr. Okonkwo was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Yeah, when I was young, I grew up in Nigeria. My family was poor, very poor. I loved science and engineering, but I didn't have access to proper equipment or materials. I had to build my first projects from scraps and trash, just like you did." She touched the papers on the table gently. "One teacher saw potential in me. She gave me books. She stayed after school to help me. She encouraged me to apply for scholarships. Because of her, I got to study engineering in England. I had a good career, a good life." She looked at Marcus with those kind eyes. "Now I'm old and I have time. I want to be for you what that teacher was for me. I want to help young people who have talent and heart but not money or opportunity." Marcus felt tears prickling his eyes. "I don't know if I'm good enough," he whispered. "You are," Dr. Okonkwo said simply. Your project proves it. The fact that you documented everything so carefully, that you thought about cost and accessibility, that you tested it with real users in your community, these are the marks of a real engineer. A real innovator. Marcus looked at his mother. She was crying openly now, tears running down her cheeks, but she was smiling too. "What do you think, baby?" she asked. Marcus thought about the vest sitting in the box on his desk. He thought about Mrs. Rivera's face when she tried it on. He thought about Mrs. Chen saying, "You're a smart boy, Marcus." He thought about the elderly man at the fair who wanted to make one for his morning walks. He thought about his mother's words. "You see people that others don't see. You care about problems that others don't care about." "I want to try," Marcus said. His voice was shaky but determined. "I want to enter the competition." Dr. Okonkwo's face lit up with joy. "Wonderful. Then we start tomorrow. I'll come here after you get home from school. We'll work together every day." "But I need to fix the vest first," Marcus said. "It got damaged at the fair." "We'll fix it together," Dr. Okonkwo said. "And we'll make it even better. We'll improve the design based on what you learned. We'll expand your research. We'll create a presentation that truly showcases your innovation." She stood up and shook Marcus's hand formally, like he was an adult. "I'm looking forward to working with you, Marcus. I think we're going to do something special." After Dr. Okonkwo left, Marcus and his mother sat at the table in silence for a moment. Then his mother pulled him into a tight hug. "See?" she whispered. "See what happens when you don't give up? When you create something true and real." That night Marcus took the vest out of its box. He looked at it with new eyes. Yes, it was damaged. Yes, it was made from recycled materials. But it was also brilliant in its simplicity. It was innovative in the truest sense. He got out his notebook and started writing ideas for improvements. Dr. Okonkwo was right. He could make it better. He could expand his research. He could strengthen his presentation. For the first time since the innovation fair, Marcus felt excited about his project again. He worked late into the night, his mother sitting beside him, both of them planning and dreaming. The next afternoon, Dr. Okonkwo came to their apartment as promised. She brought her own tools and materials. She also brought experience and knowledge from 40 years of engineering. "First," she said, "we fix what's broken. Then we improve the design. Then we document everything properly." They worked together for 3 hours that day. Dr. Okonkwo showed Marcus how to solder the LED connections more securely. She taught him about circuit design and how to protect the electronics from water damage. She helped him understand the science behind reflective materials and light visibility. But more than teaching him technical skills, she taught him how to think like an engineer, how to test and measure, how to document failures as well as successes, how to present technical information clearly. "Patents are built on this kind of documentation," she explained. "When you invent something, you need to show not just what it is, but how it works, why it works, and how others can replicate it." They worked together every day for 5 weeks. Dr. Okonkwo never missed a session, even when it rained or when she had other commitments. She was patient when Marcus made mistakes. She was encouraging when he got frustrated. She was firm when he wanted to take shortcuts. Marcus's mother often sat with them, watching and learning. Sometimes she helped with the sewing or organizing materials. Sometimes she just sat quietly, her face glowing with pride. As they worked, Marcus's project transformed. The vest became more durable, more efficient, more professional looking, while still maintaining its low cost and accessibility. His research expanded to include surveys from senior centers and interviews with multiple crossing guards. His instruction manual became clearer and more detailed. Dr. Okonkwo also helped him understand the global context of his project. "Safety and visibility are problems everywhere," she explained. "In developing countries, many people walk on roads without streetlights. Children walk to school in the dark. Workers commute before dawn. Your vest could help millions of people." She showed him statistics about pedestrian accidents worldwide. She helped him research similar products and explain how his was different. She taught him about sustainable design and social entrepreneurship. By the end of 5 weeks, Marcus had a completely transformed submission. His vest was refined and tested. His documentation was professional and thorough. His presentation was clear and compelling. The night before the submission deadline, Dr. Okonkwo came to their apartment one last time. She reviewed everything carefully. Then she smiled. "This is excellent work, Marcus," she said. I'm proud of you. No matter what happens in the competition, you should be proud too. Thank you, Marcus said, for everything. For believing in me. Dr. Okonkwo shook her head. I didn't make you believe in yourself, Marcus. I just helped you see what was already there. They submitted the application online that night, all three of them crowded around the old laptop. When the confirmation message appeared on the screen, Marcus's mother cried happy tears. Whatever happens, she said. This is already a victory. Marcus agreed. Win or lose, he had learned something important. He had learned that failure at one place doesn't mean failure everywhere. He had learned that sometimes the right people do see your value. He had learned that innovation isn't about money, it's about heart and determination and caring about others. But deep in his heart, Marcus also hoped that maybe, just maybe, his vest would impress the judges this time. Maybe this time people would see what Dr. Okonkwo saw. Maybe this time his work would be recognized for what it truly was, a gift of caring wrapped in wire and light. 3 months passed after Marcus submitted his application. During that time, life went on as normal. Marcus went to school every day. His mother worked her long shifts at the hospital. Dr. Okonkwo stopped by once a week for tea and conversation. But they didn't talk much about the competition. Try not to think about it too much, Dr. Okonkwo advised. Hope for the best, but don't let waiting consume you. It was hard advice to follow. Every day Marcus checked his email. Every day there was nothing. He tried to tell himself it didn't matter, that just submitting was an achievement. But hope is a stubborn thing, and it wouldn't leave him alone. Then, on a Tuesday in early autumn, Marcus came home from school to find his mother sitting at the kitchen table, staring at her phone. Her face was pale and her hands were shaking. "Mama?" Marcus said, dropping his backpack. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" His mother looked up at him. Tears were streaming down her face. For a horrible moment, Marcus thought something terrible had happened. Then she smiled, the biggest smile he had ever seen on her face. "You did it," she whispered. "Marcus, you did it." She turned the phone toward him. On the screen was an email with an official logo at the top. Global Youth Innovation Challenge. Marcus's hands trembled as he took the phone and read, "Dear Marcus Martinez, congratulations. We are pleased to inform you that your project, Community Visibility Safety System, has been selected as a finalist in the Social Impact Innovation category. You are one of 15 finalists chosen from over 5,000 applications from 70 countries." Marcus had to read it 3 times before the words made sense. Finalist, one of 15, from 5,000 applications. "From 70 countries, I'm a finalist?" he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Keep reading," his mother said, laughing and crying at the same time. Marcus scrolled down. The email continued. "The final round will take place in Geneva, Switzerland in December. All finalists and one guardian will receive full travel and accommodation sponsorship. Winners will be announced at the award ceremony on December 15th. Geneva, Switzerland." Marcus had never been outside his state, let alone to another country. He looked at his mother in disbelief. "They're paying for us to go to Switzerland?" he asked. His mother nodded, unable to speak. She just pulled him into her arms and held him tight. They stood there in the kitchen, both crying, both overwhelmed with joy and disbelief. The phone rang. It was Dr. Okonkwo. Someone from the competition had already contacted her as Marcus's mentor. "I knew it," she shouted into the phone, her usually calm voice filled with excitement. "I knew they would see what I saw. Marcus, I'm so proud of you." The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Marcus had to prepare a presentation for the final round. Dr. Okonkwo helped him practice speaking in front of people. They worked on answering questions confidently and clearly. They refined his demonstration so it would be smooth and professional. The school found out about Marcus's achievement. The principal called him to the office, but this time it wasn't for something bad. Mr. Wilson shook his hand and said the school was proud. They took a photo for the school newsletter. Mrs. Henderson also congratulated him, though her smile looked forced and uncomfortable. "This is wonderful news, Marcus," she said stiffly. "I always knew you had potential." Marcus remembered her laugh, her dismissive words, her suggestion that he do a poster instead. But he just said, "Thank you, Mrs. Henderson," and walked away. He didn't need her approval anymore. Some of his classmates were genuinely happy for him. Emma, the girl who had whispered that his vest was cool, gave him a high five. A few other students asked questions about Switzerland and the competition. But Brandon and his friends were different. "It's probably not that big of a deal," Brandon said loudly in the hallway. "My dad says these international competitions give awards to everyone so nobody feels bad." Marcus ignored him. He had learned that some people would never see value in what he did, and that was okay. Their blindness didn't change the truth. The community also rallied around Marcus. Mrs. Rivera organized a small fundraiser at the school to help buy Marcus and his mother nice clothes for the trip. Mr. Patel donated money from his store. Mrs. Chen and other neighbors contributed what they could. "You're representing all of us," Mrs. Rivera said at the fundraiser gathering. "You're showing the world that our neighborhood, our community matters. That poor kids with big hearts can do amazing things." Marcus's mother cried again at those words. So did Marcus. In early December, Marcus and his mother boarded an airplane for the first time in their lives. Dr. Okonkwo came to the airport to see them off. She hugged Marcus tightly. "Remember," she said, "you belong there. You earned this. Don't let anyone make you feel small." The flight was long, over 10 hours. Marcus couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what was ahead. 70 countries, 15 finalists, judges from all over the world. What if his project wasn't good enough? What if the other finalists had better ideas, more impressive presentations? His mother, sitting beside him, seemed to read his thoughts. She took his hand. "You know what I keep thinking about?" She said. "What, Mama?" "That teacher in Nigeria who helped Dr. Okonkwo. She probably never imagined that her kindness would ripple all the way to a boy in America decades later. That's what good work does, Marcus. It ripples. It spreads. It touches people in ways you can't predict." She squeezed his hand. "Your vest might help people you'll never meet in places you'll never go. That's the beauty of what you created. It's not just about you. It's about everyone it will help." Geneva was like nothing Marcus had ever seen. The buildings were old and beautiful. The streets were clean. Mountains rose in the distance, covered with snow. Everything looked like a postcard. The competition organizers put them in a nice hotel. It wasn't fancy by rich people's standards, but to Marcus and his mother, it was like a palace. They had their own bathroom. The bed was huge and soft. There was even a little basket of chocolates on the desk. That evening, there was a welcome reception for all the finalists and their families. Marcus put on the new shirt and pants that the community had helped buy. His mother wore a simple but nice dress. They both felt nervous as they entered the reception hall. The room was filled with young people from around the world. Marcus saw skin tones of every shade, heard languages he didn't recognize, saw traditional clothes from cultures he had only read about. For a moment he felt small and out of place. Then a girl about his age approached him. She had dark skin and wore a colorful headscarf. "Hi," she said in accented English. "I'm Amina from Kenya. Are you a finalist?" "Yes," Marcus said. "I'm Marcus, from America." "What's your project?" Amina asked. Marcus explained his safety vest. Amina's eyes lit up. "That's brilliant. In my village, people walk on the roads at night with no lights. Cars hit them sometimes. Your vest could help us." She showed him her project, a solar-powered water purification system that cost less than $5 to build. It was made from plastic bottles and sand and charcoal. Marcus met other finalists too, a boy from India who created a low-cost prosthetic hand using 3D printed recycled plastic, a girl from Brazil who designed a rainwater collection system for favelas, a boy from the Philippines who made a flood early warning system using recycled phone parts. All the projects were similar in spirit to Marcus's. They were practical. They were affordable. They addressed real problems. They were made by young people who understood struggle and wanted to help their communities. Marcus realized something important that night. He wasn't out of place here. These were his people. They understood what it meant to make something from nothing. They understood innovation born from necessity and empathy. The next 2 days were filled with presentations and demonstrations. Each finalist had 30 minutes to present their project to a panel of judges from United Nations organizations, humanitarian groups, and engineering societies. When Marcus's turn came, he stood on a stage in front of hundreds of people. The judges sat in the front row, their faces serious and professional. In the audience, his mother sat with Dr. Okonkwo, who had flown in to support him. They both looked so proud. Marcus took a deep breath. His hands were sweating. His heart was beating fast. But when he started speaking, something changed. He remembered why he had created his vest. He thought about Mrs. Rivera almost getting hit by that truck. He thought about Mrs. Chen struggling to be seen. He thought about his mother's rough hands and tired feet. He spoke clearly and confidently. He explained his research and his testing process. He demonstrated the vest under different lighting conditions. He showed his cost breakdown in his instruction manual. He talked about accessibility and sustainability and social impact. The judges asked many questions. Good questions, hard questions, but Marcus answered them all. He had worked on this project for months. He knew every detail. He understood every decision he had made. When he finished, the audience applauded. Not polite applause, but real applause that made Marcus's eyes sting with tears. In the front row, his mother was standing, clapping with her hands above her head. Dr. Okonkwo was crying and smiling at the same time. That night was the awards ceremony. All the finalists sat together in a large hall decorated with lights and banners. Marcus's stomach was tight with nerves. His mother sat in the audience wearing her best dress, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The ceremony began with speeches from important people. Then they started announcing awards. There were several categories, each with gold, silver, and bronze winners. Marcus watched as other finalists went up to receive their awards. Amina won bronze in environmental sustainability. The boy from India won silver in medical innovation. Each time someone's name was called, everyone applauded and cheered. Finally, they reached the social impact innovation category. Marcus's category. A woman walked to the microphone to announce the winners. She talked about how important social innovation was, how it addressed the needs of the most vulnerable people in society. The Bronze Award, she said, goes to Carlos Rodriguez from Mexico for his community communication system for remote villages. Applause. Carlos walked up beaming. The Silver Award goes to Priya Patel from India for her educational tablet made from recycled electronics. More applause. Priya accepted her award gracefully. Marcus's heart was pounding so hard he thought everyone could hear it. He told himself that even being a finalist was an achievement, that he had already won by getting here. But oh, how he wanted to win. Not for himself, for his mother, for Dr. Okonkwo, for Mrs. Rivera and Mrs. Chen and everyone in his neighborhood who had believed in him. And the Gold Award for Social Impact Innovation, the woman said, pausing dramatically, goes to Marcus Martinez from the United States for his community visibility safety system. For a moment, Marcus couldn't move. His mind went blank. Then Amina, sitting next to him, grabbed his arm. "You won," she shouted. "Marcus, you won." Marcus stood up. His legs felt like water. He walked to the stage. The lights were bright. The applause was loud. He saw his mother in the audience, standing crying, her hands covering her mouth. He saw Dr. Okonkwo hugging people around her. The woman handed him a trophy. It was heavy and beautiful, with a globe design and Marcus's name engraved on it. Then she gave him a large certificate and an envelope. "The Gold Award includes a $10,000 grant to continue developing your innovation," she said into the microphone. "We also have several humanitarian organizations interested in implementing your design in their programs." $10,000. Marcus's mind couldn't process it. That was more money than his mother made in months of cleaning hospital floors. The woman asked Marcus to say a few words. He stood at the microphone holding his trophy, looking out at all the faces looking back at him. "Thank you," he said, his voice shaking. I didn't make this project to win awards. I made it because I saw people in my neighborhood who needed help, people who were invisible, people who were struggling." He looked at his mother in the audience. "My mother taught me that real innovation isn't about having expensive materials. It's about seeing problems and caring enough to solve them. It's about making something that helps real people who really need it." His voice grew stronger. "She also taught me that being poor doesn't mean being less. That having less money doesn't mean having less worth. Every person deserves to be safe. Every person deserves to be seen. That's what my vest is about, helping people be seen." The applause was deafening. People were standing. Marcus saw his mother crying openly, and he felt tears rolling down his own cheeks. After the ceremony, reporters wanted to interview him. Photographers took his picture. Representatives from 3 international organizations said they wanted to talk about implementing his vest design in developing countries. A technology company offered to help him improve and mass-produce the design. But the best moment came when Marcus finally reached his mother in the crowd. She pulled him into her arms and held him so tight he could barely breathe. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. So proud." Dr. Okonkwo joined their embrace. "You see," she said, laughing through tears. I told you that you were special." The news of Marcus's win spread quickly. By the time they returned home, the local newspaper had written a story. The national news picked it up. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know about the poor boy from America who had beaten thousands of applicants to win a Global Innovation Award. The school held a special assembly in Marcus's honor. The whole school came to the gymnasium. Marcus stood on the same floor where months ago he had received an honorable mention certificate and watched his project get damaged. This time was different. This time Mr. Wilson gave a speech about Marcus's achievement. This time Mrs. Henderson had to stand in front of everyone and present Marcus with the school's highest honor. Her face was red as she handed him a plaque. "Marcus," she said into the microphone, "on behalf of the school I want to apologize for not recognizing the value of your work sooner. You have shown us all what true innovation looks like." Her apology felt forced and inadequate. Everyone knew it. But Marcus accepted it gracefully because that's who he was. He didn't need revenge. He didn't need to make anyone feel small. He had already won in every way that mattered. After the assembly, several things changed. Marcus's story inspired other students to think differently about their own projects. The school started a program to support students from low-income families in STEM activities. Mrs. Henderson, perhaps feeling guilty, became less dismissive of students who didn't have expensive materials. But the biggest changes happened beyond the school. Marcus's vest design was implemented in 12 countries over the next year. Organizations distributed thousands of them to crossing guards, elderly people, and rural communities. Marcus's instruction manual was translated into 15 languages. The $10,000 prize money, combined with additional donations, allowed Marcus to establish a small foundation. The Marcus Martinez Youth Innovation Fund provided materials, mentorship, and support for young inventors from underprivileged backgrounds. Dr. Okonkwo became the foundation's director. "This is the perfect way to spend my retirement," she said with a smile. Marcus's mother was able to reduce her hours at the hospital. The grant money helped them move to a better apartment, one with a working elevator and heat that didn't break down every winter. But she kept cleaning because, as she said, "It's honest work, and I'm not ashamed of it." 3 years later, Marcus was invited back to Geneva to speak at the Innovation Challenge as a past winner. He was 15 now, taller and more confident, but still the same caring boy who had noticed Mrs. Rivera almost getting hit by a truck. In his speech, he talked about failure and perseverance. He talked about the teacher who had laughed at his project and how that moment of humiliation had almost made him quit. "But I learned something important," Marcus said to the audience of new finalists. "I learned that the people who laugh at you often just can't see what you see. They can't understand what you understand. Their blindness is not your failure." He held up his trophy, the one he had won 3 years ago. "This trophy is beautiful. But you know what means more to me? The letter I got from a grandmother in Kenya, who says my vest saved her life because a driver finally saw her crossing the road. The photo I received from a crossing guard in the Philippines wearing a vest she made from my instructions. The message from a village in India where they made 50 vests and distributed them to elderly people." His voice grew passionate. "That's real innovation. Not the trophy, not the money, not even the recognition. It's the lives touched. The people helped. The problem solved." He looked out at all the young faces looking back at him. So if you ever feel like your project isn't good enough because it's not expensive or flashy, remember this. The best innovations often come from people who have to make something from nothing. The best ideas often come from people who understand struggle. Your limitations might actually be your superpower. The audience applauded. After his speech, young people lined up to talk to him, to shake his hand, to tell him their own stories of being dismissed or underestimated. Marcus listened to each one. He encouraged them. He reminded them of their worth. He was paying forward what Dr. Okonkwo had given him: belief, mentorship, and the chance to be seen. Years later, when Marcus graduated from university with an engineering degree, earned through scholarships and his foundation's support, He reflected on his journey. From a poor boy with a vest made of trash to an internationally recognized innovator, from invisible to seen. But the truth was, he had always been visible. He had always been worthy. He had always been brilliant. It just took finding the right people to see it. And now Marcus spent his life helping others be seen too, because that's what real innovation does. It doesn't just solve problems. It illuminates people. It brings light to those who have been in darkness. It says, you matter. You are important. You are seen. That vest made from garbage had changed Marcus's life. But more importantly, it had changed how he saw himself and how the world saw him. It proved that greatness doesn't require money or privilege. It requires heart, determination, and the courage to care about others. And those things Marcus had in abundance.